Traske, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to our first Diacritics lesson. My name is Andrew, and I will be your teacher for today. But before we get started with the lesson, I would just like to say thank you so much for tuning in. It really means a lot. You didn't have to be here, but you are, so we really appreciate it, 100%. If you like what you hear today, please consider subscribing or liking or commenting or anything like that. We really appreciate it. And also, before we move on, just want to add a quick disclaimer. We sort of mentioned this briefly in our welcome video. If you haven't seen that already, we'll include the link in the description. Go check that out. But just a quick disclaimer, you know, the language Diacritics, it is a fictional language. It is the language of the Khajiit, the cat people native of elsewhere. But all of that is not ours. We do not own that, okay? We did not create this language. We are just fans of the Elder Scrolls and of Bethesda. And the language was created by them, and it was expounded upon a lot by some other people. They're called the Diacritics Project. They really did a lot of the legwork there, right? They really sort of built and constructed the language into what it is. I want to reiterate that we don't own any of this intellectual property that we're going to be presenting, and we want to give them all of the intellectual credit that they deserve. We just want to present it in a way that is educational and that is easy to understand so that more people can learn. And yeah, so here we go. Okay, so with this lesson, we're going to be learning the alphabet. The word for alphabet in Diacritics is abuka, and I'll probably refer to the alphabet as the abuka a lot in this video. So if you hear me say that word, don't think, oh my God, what the hell is that? Just know that that's the word for alphabet. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to introduce the alphabet and all of its letters, and then we're going to teach how to properly pronounce the sounds that each letter makes. In this lesson, we're going to refer to that as phonate. If you're not familiar with that word, we're going to talk about that word just in a little bit here, but that's what we mean when we say phonate. We mean just how to pronounce the sounds that these letters make. Okay, so just to reiterate, our objectives for this lesson are to introduce all 32 characters of the abuka, the Diacritics alphabet, and then understand how to phonate or pronounce the sound that each character makes. Because learning how to pronounce and sound out the letters of the alphabet is truly going to be crucial when we start speaking. Let's just jump right into it. Very briefly, let's just sort of define some terms that we've used so far. What we mean by characters is in a language, a character refers to a written symbol that represents a sound, okay? By phonate, what we mean is we mean to produce or utter speech sounds. Really, what we sort of mean is pronounce. So that's sort of an easy way of just think of that when we say phonate. We're going to learn how to pronounce these sounds that these letters make. And lastly, an alphabet refers to a formalized set of ordered letters or symbols which together represent the fundamental sounds of a language. Compared to English, Diacritics has 6 more characters. Here's some quick little statistics up here on the screen, right? We've got English has 26 characters with over 170,000 words that we can create, right? That's pretty groovy. Diacritics, on the other hand, has 32 characters, and these next numbers are from the Diacritics Project website themselves, and I'll include the link in the description. They've translated over 2,000 words, 4,000 synonyms, for a whopping total of 6,806 total words to translate. That's a lot. I mean, it's not as much as English, but still, right? For those of you probably noticed, Diacritics has 6 extra characters. Right, and for those of you wondering, don't freak out. It's like, oh my God, where do these 6 extra characters come from? Why are they going to make the lesson harder? No, I think these 6 extra characters actually make learning the language a little easier. And just really briefly, I'm going to explain why, right? So the English alphabet does not actually have a character for every possible sound that can be phonated, or every possible sound that can be pronounced with the human voice box or the human mouth. So for example, the English alphabet has no character for the ch sound, right? Ch as in cheese. The way we write that is by combining 2 letters, C and H, to get ch. So we don't actually have a unique character in our alphabet for that sound. Same thing in sh as in sheep. We don't have a unique character for sh. And in addition to that, English also has a plethora of vowel sounds that we don't have unique characters for either, right? Like AI together makes I, and AY together makes A, right? we call these diphthongs. And we're not going to go into too much detail about diphthongs, but just know that that's what we mean. We use diphthongs when we say words like August or boil or ouch. Okay. And if you're a native English speaker, then you probably use diphthongs and combined letters all the time, right? You're used to that. However, imagine for a minute that maybe you're a foreigner, okay, and English is not your first language. If you were someone learning English for the first time and you had to remember, okay, O and I together makes oi, and O and U together makes ow. Having to remember all these exact sounds that those letter combinations make might be somewhat of a challenge. And you might think, well, wouldn't it just be easier and a lot simpler to just have a unique character in the alphabet that makes that sound? And that's exactly what Diacritics does. That's exactly what these 6 additional characters in the alphabet do. It takes those 6 additional sounds, not represented by letters in the English alphabet, and assigns them their own unique character. And I think that's pretty nice, actually. Okay, so now that we've got all that sort of introductory stuff out of the way, let's move on to the alphabet itself. What we're going to do is we're going to show each character in its 3 forms in the order that they appear in the abuka, and then demonstrate how to pronounce the sounds that each character makes. Just real briefly regarding the characters' forms, Diacritics letters have 3 distinct forms, and which form you use is dependent upon the letter's placement in a word. English letters sort of have different forms. We have, like capital letters and lowercase letters. That might be a sort of nice equivalent way of thinking about these 3 forms. But the important thing to know is that which form you use is dependent upon where the letter is placed in the word. If it's the first letter of a word, then you use the initial form. The last letter, you use its terminal form. And if it's in the middle of a word, if the letter is in between other letters, you use the medial form. And so all these 3 forms basically are really similar, actually. They're fundamentally the same, and they have very slight scriptural differences. But this video, we're not going to talk about how to write them, and we'll cover how to write that later in a different video. The focus right now is to just introduce the alphabet. So we're going to show you what these characters look like, and then teach you how to pronounce each character. So, without further ado, here we go. Our first letter is aho, and it looks like this, and the sound it makes is ah, as in taco, right? Aho, ah, as in taco. Next we have aito. It makes the I sound, as in eye, as in eyeball. Eito, the third A, makes the A sound, as in day. Be, makes a B sound, pretty self-explanatory, as in baseball. Cho, this is one of those additional characters that we talked about, makes the ch sound, as in cheese. Cho, as in cheese. Then we have do, as in dog, makes the d sound for dog. Eho, and eho is one of the vowels, and it makes the eh sound, as in elephant. But something that's interesting about this particular vowel is that it is what we refer to as a diacritic. And diacritic is something that we didn't mention at the beginning of the video, so we'll talk about it here very briefly. A diacritic essentially is just a glyph or a character that is sort of added above or below an existing character. So what this actually looks like will make more sense when we start writing out the characters. But for now, just know that eho is a diacritic, Next we have fi, the f sound, as in fox, makes the f sound, as in fox. Ge makes a g sound, as in goat. He makes the h sound, as in hat. Iho is another one of those diacritic vowels. It makes the long E sound, as in bee. Iho. Joja, one of my favorite letters here, is interesting because it's the only letter in the Diacritic alphabet that actually has 2 different ways you pronounce it. And which pronunciation you go with depends on which form you use. So if Joja is the first letter in a word, it is pronounced ja, as in jam or James. If Joja is used in the middle of a word or at the end of a word, it's pronounced softer. And I don't actually know what to call this pronunciation. I've included the IPA character for it on the slide, as you can see in the corner, but it makes a zh sh sound. It's really just sort of like a softer j sound, as in the word vision. So think of the S sound you make when you pronounce the word vision. That's the sound that it makes when joja is used in the middle or the end of a word. Joja. The word itself, joja, actually, when you pronounce it, follows the correct pronunciations, right? The first the first joja in joja is pronounced ja, and then the second joja in joja, because it's in between two letters, is pronounced ja, as in vision. Okay, enough of that. Let's move on. Ket. This is our K equivalent. Makes the hard K sound, or hard C sound, K, as in cat. Next we have li. Makes the L sound, as in lollipop, or lion. Probably should have used lion for that slide, but oh well. Then we have mo. Makes the sound, as in milk. Nin makes the n sound, as in nest. Ohi is another diacritic. Makes the o sound, the long oo sound, as in ocean. Never makes the ah sound, as in like hop or top. Always o. Then we have po. Makes the p sound, as in pig. Now we have next is a fun one. It's our Ta'agra's Q equivalent. It's called kehi, and how we pronounce it is a little tricky. You'll notice that it's sort of in the corner I put a question mark. It's sort of pronounced like a combination of a J. Sorry, it's sort of pronounced like a combination of a G and a K to get gehi, 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 g, g. Like K, similar to K, or excuse me, it's similar to ket, but it's deeper in the throat. I think that's what the Ta'agra website actually describes it as a K sound, but deeper in the throat. Kehi. That's a tricky one. Next is ro, which if you might remember from our previous letters, looks very similar to aho, aito, and eito. Ro makes the r sound, right? So ro is a double R, or a rolled R. R. It's a short rolled R though, however. And that's important to remember, and you'll see why when we show you our next letter here. Ro is a short rolling of the R. R. Next is ro's friend, arro. And arro is sort of like that letter that we talked about earlier. That's like a hissing sound, right? So all the R's in Ta'agra are going to be rolled. Ro is a short roll, and arro is a long roll. Next we have sahi, right? Another one of my favorite letters, just because it looks so cool. It makes the s sound, as in snake. Then we have asi, which is an elongation of sahi, an elongation of that s sound. Makes a sound really sort of like the hissing of a cat. I think that's a nice way to think of it. Next we have shari, which is the sh sound, as in sheep. Tef makes the t sound, as in tooth. Thato, th, thato, makes the th sound, as in bath or bathtub. Uho, our final diacritic letter, makes the oo sound, oo as in pool, right? Always oo, pool. Getting close to the end here, we have voji, which makes the v sound, as in violin. Another really pretty letter. Wehi, which makes the w sound, as in walrus. Yo, which makes the y sound, as in yarn. Zakai makes the z sound, as in zebra. Zakai. And lastly, we have the tokai, which is what we talked about earlier, the glottal stop. It's sort of like a deep guttural throat stopping, sort of like a stopping of the throat. And I really sort of like to think of it as like the sound that a caveman would make. They go, ooh, ooh, ooh. That's what a tokai is. A tokai is actually present in the word tokai itself. All right, that does it for today's lesson. Thank you again so much for tuning in. If you like to keep learning, we encourage you to check out the Ta'agra Project website or check out more of our videos. We've recently added an alphabet song that we hope will help you learn the alphabet. Sorry, the abuka, I should say. So go check that out if you like. Thank you again for tuning in. Have a good day.